Dear students, you are welcome in this class and hope you had a nice week and I wish you happy Republic Day. So today's topic is rice grain quality. So actually the definition of quality is the standard of something as measured against other things of a similar kind. The degree of excellence of something. A distinctive attribute or characteristics possessed by someone or something. That is quality. So quality is very, very subjective. It is, it varies with the person to person, with the thing to thing. So can anyone throw some light on quality? What is quality? I have given some two definitions before you. Can someone explain in detail what do we mean by quality? The standard of something as measured against other things of a similar kind, the degree of excellence of something. Can anyone explain me? Either in English or Hindi or language of your choice.
Sure, it is the desired criteria for something to be bought or something to be sale or these things.
Yeah. So you got certain criteria, you got certain characteristics on which you define the quality. So quality is generally qualitative. It is not quantitative. Most of the time it is qualitative, but scientists have developed some scale to make it quantitative also. We will discuss that. So quality is just inbuilt property of a thing, of a person, of anything that has some meaning, some relative meaning to different people. For example, say apple. Apple can be in different colors and different shapes. So some people may like a small size apple, some may like big size apple, some people may like green apple, some people may like red apple, or you say yellow colored apple. What is that yellow colored apple? So it depends upon individual's choice. For a person who, for some person, yellow colored apple may be good. For other, green apple may be good. For someone, red apple may. So this is personal liking. Similarly, in case of tomato, for example, we have desi tomato, local tomatoes, which are sour in taste. And but somebody have hybrids. So some people may like hybrids, some may not like it. Similarly, in case of rice, you got basmati rice, you got normal rice, you got hybrid rice. Somebody would like a particular kind of rice. It is not necessary that he or she can like all kind of rices. So for him, the quality may be good, the quality of a particular product may be good. So it is a distinctive attribute or characteristics possessed by someone or something. So in this case, we proceed further. Coming to the rice grain quality. I think by now you understand the meaning of quality. It is a relative term, very, very subjective. It varies with the person. It varies with the thing or one's own choice. It is said that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. A person may be beautiful, a person may not be beautiful. It is to be decided by other person. For me, A person may be beautiful. For you, B person may be beautiful. For someone, D person may be beautiful. But it depends upon your eyes, what you like, what you don't like. So therefore, coming to the rice grain quality, it is a combination of physical and chemical characteristics which are required for specific use by a specific user. Now, the broader definition, the broader meaning of quality can be narrowed down. Now we can narrow it down to make it more meaningful. So it is a combination of physical and chemical characteristics which are required for a specific use by a specific user. So in this case, you need, in case of rice, you have certain sets of physical property of rice, chemical properties of rice, and for a specific person, they may be different and by a specific user. Now, let us measure the rice grain quality. how we can measure the rice grain quality. So may be considered under the following headings. Physical properties. Sorry. We'll see in detail what are the physical properties of rice that determines its quality. Other is milling quality. Milling quality including as affected by its drying. So milling quality of rice is primarily governed by the drying. If drying is not proper, you will not get good milled rice. If it has excess moisture, you cannot have good milling quality. If it is too dry, the breakage will be there. So drying mainly governs the milling quality. However, there are some other factors also that I will discuss in a practical class. So milling quality is also important. For a rice miller would like to have more recovery. So for him, qualitative rice will be that which gives him more recovery. So milling quality is also important, which is considered in the rice quality. Degree of milling also determines the quality. Some people may like brown rice. Some people may like exactly white rice. And some people may like in between this. So degree of milling also decides the quality. Aging. Aging also determines the quality. Normally, it is said that old rice is better. Purana chawal hai. He's an old person. So that means aging in rice in general results in better quality. We will discuss the freshly harvested rice if it is milled and then eaten. It may not have very good quality, but when you keep it for 1 year or 6 months, then you will see there is significant improvement in the quality of the rice. We will discuss this aging of rice, why the aged rice becomes, why in the aged rice there is improvement in the quality. Cooking and sensory quality. For a housewife, cooking quality may be important. For a person who is eating is sensory, means sense, your eyes, your nose, etc., your mouth. So it has got some sensory quality also. And then physiochemical properties and eating quality. Physio means this is combined with physical properties, physical and chemical properties combined, and eating quality. How soft a rice is, how hard a rice is, how easily it can be eaten. So there are certain eating quality. Paraboling and its effect, how the paraboling can affect the quality of the grain. Product making quality. It is from the perspective of a person who is involved in bread making or some other kind of thing from rice. So quality may be different. Quality may be different. The meaning of quality may be different with respect to product quality. A particular rice may suit to a particular kind of dish or particular kind of product, but others may not suit the same way. Aromatic and other specialty rice, for them, we got certain criteria for their quality. And the most important is nutritional quality. Is it nutritious or not? What is the level of protein, minerals, vitamins? So some people consider nutritional quality. So you can see there are number of things which determine the quality. Now you see scope of quality. So we can broadly divide this quality under 5 groups. One is milling quality, cooking quality, eating quality, sensory quality, and nutritional quality. So these are 5 major classes of quality, grain quality of rice. The scope of rice grain quality encompasses interrelated physiochemical properties, which influence milling, cooking, eating, sensory, and nutritional trait. All these qualities, milling, cooking, eating, sensory, nutritional, they are governed by the physiochemical properties of the grain. So physiochemical properties of the grain, we'll see what are the physical and chemical properties of the rice grain. All these physical and chemical properties of rice grain will affect the milling, cooking, eating, sensory, and nutrition. So these are the 5, broadly speaking, categories of the rice grain quality. Hope you will remember milling, cooking, eating, sensory, and nutritional. So what are the physical properties of rice? Just you have seen the physical and chemical properties of rice influence the grain quality with respect to milling, cooking, sensory, nutritional, and so on. So physical quality parameters are grain size and shape. So grain size may be lengthwise, breadthwise, and so on. What are the dimensions? Mass, density. So based upon this, rice has been classified into different categories. I will show you. Bulk density, porosity, color. I'm not going into the details, much details of these physical parameters, but just giving you some introduction to this. Angle of repose. So this is coefficient of static and dynamic friction. We will see what is angle of repose in case of rice. Hygroscopic properties. This relates to taking moisture in and giving out moisture. That is equilibrium moisture content. Hygroscopic conductivity and diffusivity. These are hygroscopic properties. Thermal properties like specific heat, conductivity, coefficient of expansion, diffusivity, mechanical properties of the grain, tensile, bending and compressive strength, hardiness, and grain chalkiness. So these are some of the physical properties of grain quality listed here. So you can see large number of physical properties will affect the different grain quality parameters of rice. Now, overall, you can see rice grain quality can be broadly divided into two kinds of properties. One is genetic properties, other is acquired properties. So genetic are inbuilt properties which are coming from varieties, and acquired properties, these come from your environment. Acquired properties come from environment, mainly by temperature or heat or moisture or relative humidity, or maybe insect pest and disease. These are acquired properties. So genetic properties which are largely controlled by the genes, by the varieties, like certain chemical characteristics. Chemical characteristics may be starch content or amylose content or amylopectin content or gelatinization temperature. These are specific to the varieties, these chemical characteristics. Then shape, many times shape of the grain is also genetically controlled, because basmati rice will give you basmati rice and other variety, inbred variety, will give you same kind of rice year after year. So shape, size, color, and even chalkiness is also genetically controlled. Of course, certain environmental factors also influence chalkiness, but chalkiness is largely a genetic property. Shape, size, color, chalkiness, bulk density, thermal conductivity, equilibrium moisture content, and flow ability. So these are largely genetic properties, but some of them can be affected by environment also. See, acquired properties. Acquired properties may be moisture content. Genes will not control your moisture content after harvest. So it is environment that will control the moisture content. Grain purity will be governed by the precautions taken by the farmer, grain purity. Pest damage, physical damage, any damage by threshing machine or during threshing. Immature grains means harvesting is not done at proper time, then you can have immature grains. Chalkiness can be the result of changes in temperature or some other factors. And then milling characteristics. Milling characteristics are also influenced by environmental factors. So here acquired properties are the result of the environmental factors or management. So milling and head rice recoveries, grain dimension, whiteness, milling degree, and chalkiness. These are known as milling characteristics. Means recovery of the milled rice, head rice, grain dimensions, if it is broken, whiteness, and milling degree and chalkiness. So these are some of the milling characteristics. So now you see important quality traits of rice and their preference, what people prefer. So now, just now you have seen different parameters of physical and chemical grain quality of rice. Now, what is the people's preference? There are different shapes, sizes, different moisture content, and different kind of milling characteristics and so on. So there are variety of quality parameters, but what are preferred by the people? What is liked by the most people? So that we can come closer to the quantification of quality. We want to quantify it. Like in case of several cities, several universities, you know, the scoring system has come that this city is the cleanest city. So they give some marks, they give some marks for different items and then make the total and see who is getting the largest marks. So based upon that, they decide the quality. Similarly, you need to have certain mathematical or certain numerical values to those quality parameters. So in this case, for example, hulling and milling. So naturally, everybody would like that hulling and milling should be high. So 70 to 79% is very, very satisfactory. Means if a rice is giving you 70 to 79% hulling and milling, then that means this is of good quality rice in that sense. Length and shape of grain. Normally, people in India may like long and slender grain, which are 6 millimeter long. 6 millimeter long, and length and breadth ratio is more than 3. Amylose content. I will discuss in detail. Amylose content influence the quality, the cooking quality of the rice. So amylose content is important. It can vary from say 2% to 50% or more. So we will see different categories of amylose content. So normally intermediate levels of amylose are considered as the best, and which is around 21 to 25%. Higher or lower than this may not be considered as a good quality. Grain elongation, generally greater. People want longer grains, so it should be 1.5. Suppose initially size was 1 millimeter, then it should expand to 1.5 millimeter or more than that. Volume expansion should be more, 3.7. Gelatinization temperature should be intermediate. We will discuss in subsequent slide what is gelatinization temperature. It should be intermediate, 56 to 79 degrees centigrade. Alkali digestion value should be intermediate, and aroma should be present. Normally, rices with aroma are liked by the people. So these are general quality traits of rice and their preference by people. Particularly, this is from India. This data is from India. Now let us check the quality parameters of rough rice. I think you by now you know what is coarse rice, rough rice, or paddy. So it includes your moisture content of the paddy, because you may go for milling of this rice, then you need the best moisture content in it. And if you are storing it, then also you should have the minimum level of moisture, that is say 10 to 12% moisture is required. So moisture content of the paddy is important characteristic. Purity degree, what is the purity? How much is the waste material in this? Varietal purity, you want varietal purity. Cracked grains should be minimum. Immature, discolored, fermented, damaged grain should not be there. So these characteristics are determined by the weather conditions during production, and crop production properties also determine the varietal purity. Soil conditions, harvesting also determines some of them, like cracked grains, and post-harvest practices. So for rough rice, these are the properties, and these are largely influenced by the weather conditions. Now, we'll see in detail how these factors affect the quality of rough rice, or how the quality of rough rice is affected. So drying is very, very important. When you harvest, the drying procedure or drying process is the most important. That will ultimately influence the hulling or milling of rice, and then all other properties. Suppose you have done some harvesting of the rice, and what happened this year also, some of you might be remember, after harvesting of the rice in a major part of the country, there was rain, and I have seen practically rice was floating in water, and that rice soaked the water. A lot of water soaking was there. So do you think that quality, physical quality, or any kind of quality of such rice will be good? And I have seen some rice is started germinating in the field. So if germination is induced, then also there will be a lot of chemical changes in the starch and other material in the grain. So that will definitely affect the quality. So moisture content is very, very important, and optimum milling potential of at moisture content is 14%. So grains with high moisture content are too soft to withstand hulling pressure. So there should not be more than 14% moisture. Otherwise, breakage of the grain will be there and problems will come. You cannot get high recovery of the milled rice. Grain that is too dry, if it is too dry, it becomes brittle and has greater breakage. So you need very right content of moisture in rough rice before you go for milling process, hulling and milling process. Now, cracked grains. If your grains are cracked in the rough rice, so overexposure of mature paddy to fluctuating temperature means fluctuating temperature, you understand, high, low, cycles of high and low temperature, and moisture conditions may lead to fissures and cracks in kernel, inside the kernel. There may be fissures or lining and some cracks in the kernel. So alternating the temperature is not good. Cracks in the kernel cause breakage, then breakage will be there. So reduce milled rice recovery and head rice recovery. So your rough rice should not be cracked rice. And this cracking occur mainly because of alternating temperature. Third is variety purity. Variety purity is also important. If you got mixture of varieties, then their shape and size of the seed will be different. And they may not fit a one kind of particular kind of machine. That is huller. Huller is a machine by which you remove the hulls or husking is done by that. So if you get mixture of varieties, then machine will not be suitable for that. Therefore, breakage will be there. So a mixture of varieties, it is difficult at milling, reduced capacity, excessive breakage, lower milled rice recovery. So variety should be pure. Different sizes and shaped grains may be there, and it is difficult to adjust the hullers and polishers to produce whole grains. So size of the rice should be same, uniform. If you see advanced rice milling machine, then in that case, grading is done. Grading of the rough rice is done, and then similar size grains are separated, then milling is done. So this is very, very important, this variety purity. And mixture, what happens? Mixture low initial dehulling efficiencies, non-uniform whitening, and lower grade of milled rice. So ultimately, you will get problem in the cooking also. Some rice may be overcooked, and some rice may be undercooked. So variety purity is very, very important. Now, angle of repose of rough rice is also a property which tests the suitability of rice for milling and it is related to quality of the rice, or fineness or roughness of the grain is decided by the angle of repose. So in this case, the maximum, what is angle of repose? It is the maximum angle to horizontal at which rocks, soil, or any material, whether grain, will remain without sliding. Means if you make a pile, then and go on making the pile, and then a point will come when you cannot increase the angle. You cannot increase the angle. That is the last. So therefore, that particular angle is angle of repose. If you go on adding more grains on the top of this, then they will slide. They will slide. They will not fix there. They will not get fixed there. So that particular angle you can see in the picture is angle of repose. So the another definition of this angle is the steepest angle of descent. Descent means fall. The steepest angle of descent or dip relative to the horizontal plane to which a material can be piled without slumping or without sliding. The material on the slope face is on the verge of sliding. Angle ranges from 0 to 90 degrees centigrade, as high as 90 degrees. So certain materials you can pile perpendicularly also, but never more than 90. Less than, it is always less than 90. Smooth, rounded sand grains cannot be piled as steeply as can be rough interlock. Means for finer the material, smaller is the angle. Rough is the material, then larger is the angle. Now you see the angle of repose for different materials, for ashes, for bran, for chalk, for clay, for earth, different materials. For wheat, it is 27. For wheat, it is 27. Of course, it will vary with the varieties also. These are average values. These are ranges. For wheat, average value is 27. The angle of repose for rice, which is allowed to freely fall into a pile, is approximately 36 degrees. So you can remember this value. It is 36 degrees degree. Now, size, shape, and length breadth ratio is also important. So you can see this classification is by Ahuja 1995, and it is also acceptable by Food and Agriculture Organization. Almost similar length breadth ratio is given for basmati rice. So if I ask you what is extra long basmati rice, so the length L should be more than 7.5 millimeter. This is for the grain. This is not the cooked grain. This is raw grain, milled rice. This is milled rice actually. More than 7.5 millimeter. And shape is called as slender. If it is more than 7.5 millimeter, the shape is slender, and length breadth ratio on cooking is more than 3. No, it is not on cooking, sorry. This is length breadth ratio of kernels without cooking. It is without cooking. So this is milled rice. Then long means 6.61 to 7.5. Shape is medium, and the length breadth ratio is 2.1 to 3. Then medium, 5.51 to 6.6, and grain will be called as bold grain, and length breadth ratio is 1.1 is to dash 2. Short grains are 5.5 or less, or you can say less than 5.50, and grain will be called as round, and LB ratio is less than 1 or less than 1. So this is the classification of, you can see different size. Size is extra long, medium, short. Shapes are your slender, medium, bold, round, and then length breadth ratio. This is for basmati rice. Now, next is aroma. Aroma is also important in case of quality parameters. So certain volatile compounds are there. So these volatile compounds give a specific aroma to rice, and detected in commercial basmati and Italian line. So you can see the range of compounds which are responsible for aroma. So aldehydes, for example, in basmati, they are 5952. The unit is ppb, and in Italian rice, it is 3655. So you can see some differences. So these aldehydes, alcohol, hydrocarbons, ketones, heterocyclic compounds, phenols, disulfides, terpenes, these are the volatile compounds that have been detected in commercial basmati and Italian rice varieties. But the most important compound you might be knowing is 2-acetyl-1-pyrroline, which is found in basmati rice at about 90 parts per billion. So the concentration is 90 ppb. That is about 12 times more than in other type of rices, giving basmati its special aroma. So this is 12 times higher than other kind of rices. Chemically, it is C6H9NO, and it is a methyl ketone, a pyrroline, and an acylamine. So these are the chemical groups of C6H9NO. Just you can remember that it is 2-acetyl-1-pyrroline, which is responsible for aroma in basmati rice. Now, just we have seen certain quality characteristics of rough rice, which are important for hulling and milling. Now see quality characteristics of milled rice. What are the milled rice quality characteristics? The quality characteristics of milled rice are both physical and chemical. So physical characteristics are milling degree, whiteness, translucency, grain length, foreign material, head rise, chalkiness. These are physical properties or physical characteristics falling in grain quality of milled rice. Then chemical characteristics like amylose content, gelatinization temperature, and gel consistency. So let us see one by one. So physical characteristics of milled rice, degree of milling of rice. Degree of milling of rice is a physical characteristics. So what happens when you remove the husk, then you get brown rice. So brown rice contain 100% brown layer. So brown layer is not removed when you do hulling or husking or dehusking. So then through the process of milling, you remove the brown layer. You remove the brown layer. So first process is milling, and second, or whitening, you can call it whitening, and second process is polishing actually. There are two parts of the milling process. One is whitening, where you remove the brown layer and then polish it, then polishing. But many times people consider them as one, which is milling. So what is degree of milling of rice? Extent to which the brown layer is removed during milling is known as degree of milling. What proportion of brown layer you are going to remove, that is your degree of milling. It affects the aesthetic and nutritional value. Aesthetic means your looks, whether it looks good to your eyes, aesthetic and nutritional value. If you remove more proportion of brown layer, then you will get less nutrients. If you keep some proportion of brown layer, then that rice will be richer in nutrients compared to rice where more part of the bran is removed. Nutritional value, storage is also important. Infestation, fat hydrolysis, fat oxidation. That means if you keep brown layer, then storage become difficult. If you remove it completely, then storage is better. If you see it from perspective of storage, then least bran content in rice will give better storage compared to the brown rice, or rice having more proportion of brown layer. So it affects aesthetic, nutritional value. Storage is affected. Infestation, fat hydrolysis, fat auto-oxidation, etc. So this fat hydrolysis can give you rancidity, and the fat is present in the brown layer. And brown layer fat, if it is hydrolyzed, then it will give you bad smell, and it will also change the color of the rice, this rancidity. So packing and flow behaviors, bulk density, porosity, angle of repose, all are affected by degree of milling of rice. It affects chemical constituents, rate of cooking, and breakage during milling. So if you want to remove more bran, then breakage will be more. If you want to remove less bran, then breakage will be less. So rate of cooking is also affected. Higher the content of the bran in white rice, more time for cooking, more energy. Less is the, or suppose there is no. So welcome back. Welcome back in this class, and we were discussing about the physical characteristics of milled rice. So what happened, by now I think you understand that what is a milled rice. So it is two processes. There are two processes in milling of rice. First process is husking or dehusking, which is also called as hulling or dehulling. In very first lecture, I told you these four words have same meaning: hulling, dehulling, husking, dehusking. Just removal of hulls or husk or hard layers from the rice. When you remove these hulls from the rice, and then inside it is the caryopsis, which is your brown rice. Brown rice contains brown layers, and inside the brown layer you got white rice, which is mostly your starch. And then if you store rough rice, so a rough rice, there is no problem. You can store it for a long time. If you want to store the milled rice, then in milled rice, you have two categories. One is brown rice, other can be just white rice without brown layer. If you store rice with brown layer, maybe 50% brown layer or maybe 100% brown layer. 100% brown layer means it is brown rice. 50%, 30% brown layer means it is milled rice or white rice. So I think you understand the difference in white rice and brown rice. So brown rice is full of bran. No bran is removed. Milled rice or white rice is the rice where your part of the bran layer is removed. Now you are storing two kinds of rices. One is white rice, other is brown rice. So brown rice will deteriorate fast in storage. So storage period may be shortage if under same condition both are stored. Because it is rich in oil. I told you bran layer is rich in oil. It contains 50 to 20% oil. So most of the oil of rice is confined to bran layer. And you understand that this fat or oil, when it is there, it is exposed to the air. When it is exposed to the air, it is oxidized or reduced, whatever happens. But some chemical changes happen in this rice, in this oil, which kind of fermentation may also occur. And because of that, the quality of the rice will be affected. It will smell very badly. One time or one time I have eaten such kind of rice in my home. It was having some rancidity, some yellow color, and I cooked it. Then I could not eat it. I could not eat it. So nobody will eat such kind of rice where rancidity has been created. So that is what I wanted to say. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
This is actually auto-oxidation, infestation, fat hydrolysis, and fat auto-oxidation. Because of this process, rancidity of the fat happens. Affects chemical constituents rate of cooking and breakage during milling.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now you see amount of bran removed in milling process. So measured by the whiteness meter. So one machine is there which is known as whiteness meter or amount in weight of bran removed. We will have a practical on this. I will tell you how to calculate the milled rice, brown rice, and so on. So in this case, one instrument is there that can measure the whiteness. Otherwise, simple procedure is by weight method. When you do the process of milling, then you can take out the bran, you can take out the white rice and calculate the percentage on weight basis. So that can also be done. So in this case, you can see the whiteness of the rice. 14% removed, 12% removed, 10% removed, 8% removed, 6% removed. What proportion of the bran layer is removed? If you remove more, then you will have more whiteness. Now, whiteness is liked by many people. So whiteness of rice is a combination of varietal physical characteristics, number one, post-harvest management, and degree of milling. All these three factors affect the whiteness of the rice. First is varietal properties. Of course, almost all rices are white in color when you remove the bran layer, but still there may be some shades of color of the endosperm. So that may be varietal characteristics. Because in white also you can have several shades of white. Post-harvest management, your storage management, harvesting, threshing, all will affect the whiteness. And degree of milling. More degree of milling, more white. Less degree of milling, less white. So whiteness is another physical property of the milled rice. Then head rice. Head rice is the unbroken rice, the rice which is not broken, or which is 3/4 of the rice grain or kernel. The amount of whole kernels is known as head rice, or a whole kernel is 75% plus. Means if you have the length of the rice, if it is more than 75%, then it is a head rice or whole rice. Nobody wants that you get broken grains. Now, aging of rice, just we discussed about it, aging of rice. So many times it is said that old rice is better in taste. In India, it is very common, and across the world it is known. So aging after harvest affects organoleptic and eating quality. So if you store rice for longer period, it results in organoleptic and eating quality improvement. So what is organoleptic? See on the bottom of this slide, organoleptic properties are the aspects of food that an individual experiences via the senses. Means organoleptic, you can realize it through the senses by touching it, by smelling it, by touching your skin of your tongue, including taste, sight, smell, and touch. So these properties are improved by aging and also eating quality. So what happens? Why it happens? Rice cooks to a soft and sticky texture soon after harvest. If immediately, if without aging, without keeping it in a store for some time, if you cook the freshly harvested rice, then uh, rice cooks to a soft and sticky texture. Then you will find some sticky texture soon after the harvest. But progressively, with the time, it yields firmer and free-flowing cooked grains at its ages. Means the quality of the rice improves. What are the reasons? But reasons are not fully understood. Reasons for this are not fully understood, but certainly there is improvement in the quality of the starch. So various theories have come forward. One is including some enzyme action. Some enzyme action happens and starch changes. Fat oxidation can be helpful partly. A small portion of the fat is oxidized. Changes in non-starchy polysaccharides and cell walls and changes in protein. So these are few of the reasons that aging results in changes in these properties. I'm not going into the detail, that is not our subject actually, but just what is happening if rice is getting aged. Now, chalky grains. Chalky grains you can see on the right side. So inside the grain, you can see some thick white part, thick and white part inside the grain. They may be in lines, they may be in one or two places in each grain. So chalk is the opaque area. Opaque means non-transparent. Opaque area in the rice grain and undesirable. This chalkiness is undesirable. Chalky areas occur because of malformed starch granules. These are the result of malformation of the starch granules with air spaces between them. Some air spaces are also there and they are malformed starch granules. And why it happens? Because of temperature effect or variety. Chalky regions, what happens? What is the result of the chalky grains? So chalky regions weaken the grain and cause it to break or pulverize during polishing. When you do the milling, that time these grains will be easily broken. If there is no chalkiness, then grain will not get broken. If the crop is very chalky, most of the grains will break or turn to powder. So quality is affected. Chalk affects farmers in every socio-economic scale, and no breeding or research program has been able to eliminate it. It happens. Means sometimes it is genetically controlled, it will happen, and sometimes environmental factors affect the chalkiness. So chalkiness should be, it is a negative quality. High temperature during grain filling. What are the reasons? High temperature during grain filling lead to chalk in many varieties of rice. This is one. Also controlled by genetic constitution. Chalky areas of rice grains are characterized by air spaces and small starch granules. Air spaces and small starch granules, which leads to breakage during milling. Moreover, chalky grains are generally found on secondary branches of the panicle. So this is genetically controlled. You can see they are primarily found on the secondary branches of the panicle. So you can see these chalky grains, the trait of physical quality that devalue rice in the market. Now broken grains, you can see before you, these are the broken grains, destroy the visual beauty of a sample of rice. Nobody likes to eat broken grains. Everybody wants head rice to be eaten. Starch leaches during cooking. That is the problem. Starch will leach away from the grain, forming a glue around the cooked grains and a sticky layer on the bottom of the pan that is difficult to remove. So this is the problem if you cook the broken grains. The proportion of whole milled rice, grain, head rice yield is a key trait of quality measured in every quality evaluation program. So you should have more head rice than broken rice. So broken rice you cannot completely eliminate, but they should be to the minimum extent. Marketability and acceptability is reduced. Main factor that affect the proportion of broken grains is post-harvest drying and storage of the rice. So these factors affect the broken grains. If the grain goes through several cycles of wetting and drying, if wetting and drying, rapid drying, or is not equipped prior to polishing, head rice yield decreases. So that means temperature and moisture. Temperature and moisture affects the broken grains. If there is a fluctuation in these two, they will affect the number of broken grains. Wetting and drying can occur if mature grain remains on the panicle in an environment where dew nights are followed by hot, dry days. So in the night, it gets extra moisture. During daytime, it removes the moisture. So taking moisture in and out, and also variation in temperature will increase the broken grains. So color of the polished grains, just 1 or 2 minutes more. Color of the polished grain, color is also important. So normally it has to be white color, but sometimes there may be yellowness. And people have found to measure the yellowness. Yellowness index is used to score the color. Consumers prefer white rice over yellow rice. They don't want to eat yellow rice. And protein content associates positively with yellowness. High protein is not desired from a sensory point of view. Develops yellow tinge when stored poorly. Oxidation of fatty acid results in accumulation of compounds like 2-nonenal, giving rancid flavor. So this yellowness comes because of oxidation of fat. So I will continue next time or tomorrow in the practical. I will continue this chemical characteristics of the milled rice. So it is time to ask questions. If you have any question, you can ask. Tomorrow we meet at 2:30.
Sir,